Hello, EPM, and thank you for coming to another edition of our Empower Live sessions. We are thoroughly enjoying each one of our special guests. It's amazing for us to be able to reach out and engage with our community. Oh, yes. The mic is up there. No, it should be able to hear me. I hope you can hear me. I'll just project. But thank you guys for continually joining us and being consistent with us. Consistency is a very big part of our special guest's mission and his message. We are invited by Jake Thompson. If you were with us during our EPMX 21 exchange, you kind of already got an introduction to him. And this is going to be a second introduction to not only you, but just to our overall audience. So we're very excited to have him. He is a motivational speaker. He is the Chief Experience Officer of Compete Every Day, the shirt I'm wearing, and he's amazing. Let me just tell you, actually, he has motivated me to stay consistent. So my 2021, resolution was to get physically fit and start just building mass and getting pecs and stuff. And wearing this t-shirt, I wear it like way too much in the office. I actually need to get another one. I need to get the blue version because I wear it way too often, but it does drive me and it keeps me motivated. And so, you see, I'm getting there. But anyway, like I said, today's special guest is Jake Thompson, and I'd like to turn it over to them right now. Welcome, Jake Thompson, hosted by Derek Kelly and Blaine McCarty.
Welcome, Jay.
Thanks, y'all. And I've got to give you a shout out because I've seen on LinkedIn taking advantage of the EPM Fit space as well for that New Year's resolution.
Yes.
That's right. LA's in every class.
LA is killing it. Also, as you can tell, my name is on, it's an audience of me today. Sorry about that. If that's our only malfunction that we have today, then we're doing good. But I don't know why that's not for my personal account. So hilarious. So anyway, welcome everybody to Empower Hour Live this week. It's a little different. As you see, we have Jake here in person. The rest of, the other ones have been very virtual without Zoom. Over Zoom. So thank you for coming here today. Thank you all for tuning in. Our leadership is there. Our Mentality C group, they're on a leadership retreat. So we've kind of taken over this day, and we're going to talk to Jake about how to get back into a productive state of mind and how to win the next one. So we're going to turn it over to you to start this over. So thank you for coming today. Thank you for being here, Darren. Thank you all for tuning in. If you want to change your name from mine, that would be awesome. So we know who you're talking. When you ask questions, we'll know who you are.
And if you have questions, we'll know.
We'll know what I say.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
All of your questions are my questions.
Yeah, so LA teed us up. You kicked it off right there as well, talking resolutions. Because for a lot of us, we don't talk resolutions when it comes to March and heading into March, because a lot of us have already quit them. We talked about off air. 84% of people have given up on their New Year's goals and resolutions by January 20th. You don't even make it to the third full week before you quit on them. By the end of the year, it's less than 6% of people have actually stuck with the goal that they committed to have for the year. There's a number of reasons for that. A lot of times we set too big a goal, we're too vague with it, but the biggest one, I think, is we just don't have a process to get there. And when we fall off the process, say LA's goal is to get his pecs, is to work out. If he misses the gym for like a day or two, a lot of us are like, I'm done. That's it. I mail it in. I missed once. I missed twice. That's right. Next year is my year, but this year I'm just going to ride out the next 8-9 months. We get into that mindset of just like, well, I missed one. I got to keep going and just keep it that versus I missed one. How am I going to win my next one? And so, a lot of our point and a lot of our focus in today's conversation is around increasing our productivity by getting back into the routine that a lot of times we make excuses and get off the tracks with.
Well, we have a few follow-up questions that we wrote out. So we have a question for you. What is one of the biggest traps we can fall into that will derail our productivity and progress?
Ooh, biggest traps. I think the biggest trap we fall into is probably that sunk cost of I've invested some time or I made this one decision, so I need to make the next one based off of that. All of our choices are independent of each other. Every choice we make is actually independent of the next one. We rarely see it that way, but think about this. It's lunchtime. I don't know what you're eating right now. I don't know what your goals or nutrition habits are, but if you have that delicious slice of giant pizza right in front of you, you know the big slices, but deep down you've got this nutrition plan, you've got fitness goals like LA, you have things you're working for. you're probably going to go through your head later this afternoon of like, man, I had pizza for lunch. Maybe I should just start happy hour early. It's Friday. It's Friday, 4 o'clock happy hour. And then I'm going to get to dinner and it's fried chicken because the South, Georgia, y'all probably have Texas beat in terms of your fried chicken because you're more Southern than we are. And I'm in Dallas and we're not even really South. Texas is weird. We do Tex-Mex really well though. And so for me, it's chips and salsa. So you look at that and you're like, man, I had pizza. Now I'm gonna get something fried for dinner. And you know what? Saturday morning, I'm gonna wake up. It's Saturday. I gotta start with donuts. Like we just get in this routine because I messed up at lunch. I need to mess up with dinner and we're just out of a rhythm. And then we get to a point where it's like 2022, that's going to be my year. Versus saying, yeah, I had pizza for lunch. What can I eat my next meal to win it? Essentially, what can I do the next time out to not worry about what happened at lunch, but to say, hey, what do I need to do to be in a better position tomorrow? And the phrase we like to talk about is win the next one. And the reason this is so important is a lot of my world is sports. We talk sports, sports stories, sports analogies. And if you think about your favorite team, I don't know, Hawks, Falcons, what are our teams here? Braves?
Yeah, we're
Bulldogs,
yeah.
Bulldogs. Okay, so Bulldogs, we'll talk
Some
football.
Yeah.
So football goes, if you're a football player and you're on the field, the ball's about to be snapped. And if you're, say, a wide receiver and you're thinking about the play just before where you drop the pass, chances are you're going to drop the next time it's thrown to you because you're thinking about something that's already happened, replaying it. Same will apply if you're sitting at that play, getting ready for the ball to snap, and you're thinking about, ooh, the co-eds I get to see after the game tonight. Your head's not going to be in the game. You're going to be thinking 4 or 5 hours ahead versus what's the next one. And so in sports, you have to be focused on the play at hand. In life, we have to learn to be focused on the day at hand and the choice at hand. And so for us walking into an office, how are we going to just focus on winning today? And what can we do today to improve our position for tomorrow versus worrying about what happened yesterday or stressing about something that's due next week? We need to show up and just focus on today. And I think that's the biggest trap is we get too distracted by what we did before, or we're too worried about what's way ahead that we have a hard problem or a hard time being where our feet are essentially.
So that's like, that's just bringing it back to like the kind of the present moment, like to bring you back to like, it's gone. It is what it is. I messed up. I had grits for breakfast. We were in here eating grits. Welcome to Georgia where we have grits. But but how do you bring yourself back to the present? Is it just like literally just being like, no, I can do this now?
There's really a few ways to do this. And I'll say this as someone who is anti-woo-woo. Like if you talk, this is essentially mindfulness practice. But when you approach me and you're like, oh, we're going to practice mindfulness, I'm like, I'm good. Like that sounds woo-woo to me. All theoretical. But in reality, there's 2 ways we can do this. The first is literally taking a deep breath and resetting. And a lot of times we think about, we might have to do that if we get into a disagreement with our boss or a coworker, where it's like, instead of just firing off, we got to go, take a minute, reset, and then respond the way you want to. We do the same thing kind of going into every decision. Before we jump into it, before we impulsively jump, is just take a deep breath, because controlling our breath really helps us control our focus. And the second one that I actually use a little bit more is writing it down. Writing down, because we were talking off air before this about journaling and the importance of writing things down. And for someone like me that took me forever to get into a habit of physically writing things down, our brains respond better when we write. A lot of us, like, we mess up, we tell ourselves, yeah, next time I'm going to do better. And we try to mentally file it away. And then we're overwhelmed. We have work responsibilities, life responsibilities. We have social media running wild. We don't remember it until it happens again. We make the same decision. We're like, crap, I just repeated. It's Groundhog Day all over again. Versus writing it down starts to cement it a little bit more in our heads. And so for us, winning the next one, win today, is in the morning, opening the day and writing down, what are the 2 to 3 things I need to do today to make today a win? If I get all 2 to 3 of these things done, that day is a win, regardless of anything else.
Which is separate from your to-do list, right?
Separate from your to-do list. And the way I love to do it is start the morning looking at my 3 points of attack. What are the 3 things I need to get done? And then at the end of the day, this is the kicker, is right before bed, I have a little notepad on my nightstand. I'll just scribble down the date. So today's the 26th. I'll write down something that happened today, just a quick note of like, hey, EPM live interview. And then underneath it, I'll put next time I will. So if there was something about today that I'm like, I wish I had a do-over, how would I do it differently? I make that note. And the reason I make that note is twofold. One is because we're constantly trying to grow and develop and build ourselves of how we can get better. And so writing it down is giving me kind of that game plan. It's giving me that blueprint for the next time I'm in this situation. Here's where I see an opportunity to improve. The second one is it gets it out of my head, which is where we get stuck of like, oh, I messed up, or we have that conversation with a friend and the rest of the night, we're just thinking about, oh my God, I should have said something different. I wish I'd done that. And we sit on it and then we can't sleep. And then the next morning we wake up, we're probably a little anxious. Like it's all still pent up inside versus writing it down and then identifying, here's how next time I'll do differently. And so that does two things. It gets it out of our head, helps deal with that anxious or that anxiety and stress. But secondarily, writing it down helps us identify opportunities where we can get better. And it sounds, high up in the clouds theory, but it's just that little bitty practice every day that gives you a building block. And real change, resolutions, anything that we want to do in life, it's not massive jumps. It's not, hey, I haven't seen you in 5 years. You're totally different. How did you magically change overnight? You're like, just a little bit every single day, like stacking Lego blocks.
Yeah. I think that's one of the cool things too. So when you write it down as well, it kind of is like when your mind then wants to go back and overthink it, you have that written proof to go back and say, actually, I know how to solve this for next time. There's nothing I can do for this past time. It is what it is. I'm sure we beat ourselves up more than other people do, right? But then you have that moment where you're like, this is how I can do it. Here's my game plan. So it brings you back out of your head constantly too to see you write it down. So I think that's really,
and it forces you to reflect and then ultimately improve.
Well, and that reflection is key for self-awareness. Gary Vaynerchuk, famous entrepreneur, is big on self-awareness as a superpower. Gary V loves it. And it's so true because the better our self-awareness, the better we can grow and develop within our careers, within our relationships, and our lives. And so that exercise builds that self-awareness because it also, if you get 2 weeks, a month down the road and you notice you keep making the same type of mistake, essentially, then you're building your self-awareness of, oh, I'm really struggling in this area. And you become more aware of it, which gives you an opportunity to say, how can I correct it? How can I grow? And secondarily is a year from now, if you've been writing it down, you have a way to track your progress. You can see like, man, that used to mess me up a year ago. Now it's nothing. And that's the other piece that we get into with when we talk goals, when we talk career path. If we don't write it down, every one of us, me included, y'all, everybody in this room, we're going to have those days where it's like, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not making progress. Health and fitness goals, that's the biggest one because they're like, man, I've been working out for like 2 months. I still weigh the same thing on the scale and they're not realizing, man, but look how much stronger you've gotten.
Yeah.
Look how much better at those workouts you are. Look how your clothes are fitting differently than they were. Like quit worrying about just the scale. What are you eating and how are you lifting? And so writing it down is one of the most underrated, I think, things that we can do to build ourselves so that we can better impact others.
I agree. We were talking before, I am an avid journaler. So writing things down is really awesome. And I just started a new journal and I get really intense about my journaling. I talk about it. I have color codes for each journal and a way that I follow it and things like this. And so I went back to reflect on the last color journal that I had anyway. And it was just really cool because that game plan that I came up with in that journal, which was 1.5 years ago, literally has led me to like this week, with just the energy of propelling me forward. And you go through and you're like, yeah, like that day was hard, but then boom, 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 3 days later, I had a breakthrough. And then, it was hard again. But then, wow, I had a month of breakthroughs. And then you see, and then Eddie told me something yesterday, actually, Eddie, our CEO, he said, go back and read it in reverse. So you go, he said, then you not only do you, if you read it forward, you see your progress, but if you go back, you see how you did it.
Yep.
I was like, that is so awesome. Like I never thought to like turn it around and be like, okay, let me look at yesterday and then the day before and then the day before that. And then there's like a clear path of like, see, this is how you actually moved that thought or that problem. And I think that is so, I'm sorry, we're on the same page.
I love that. Well, and I love that. And for anyone listening that's never done that, journaling and the idea of writing it down is very overwhelming for a lot of us because you're like, well, I don't want to do Dear Diary. Like starting that out, that's way too much for me. But it literally is simple as taking out a piece of paper. What are the 3 things I need to do to win today? And then at the end of the day, what's my lesson that I can take away and run with? And that is a short 5-minute practice that gets you in the habit so that you do have those opportunities to look back and be like, man, or you look at it from a career standpoint, where do you want to be in 5, 10 years from now? Like, what are you doing on a daily, weekly basis to build your skills, personal skills, career skills, professional ones? And then planning that is, hey, my plan of attack today is to read 15 minutes on how to improve how I sell. And then you're looking back 2 years from now, you're in a sales position you wanted, you can trace it back and be like, this is where that started, versus being like, man, I'm not getting where I thought I would be, versus like, no, you are, you're just on the path.
Right. Well, we have a question from an anonymous attendee. What is your strategy going back into all your writings to see your response to what I will do next time?
What is my strategy going in? So flipping back, so I'm going to ask you anonymously if you can fill in. Going back to everything I've written throughout the past, what will I do next time? So a couple of pieces on that. Every choice and decision we make is around the idea, is this putting me closer to where I want to be or who I want to become? And so what you want to be able to do is go back and look at your past writings from a year ago, 6 months ago, 3 months from now, and then look at them today and say, am I progressing in the right direction? If I want to be someone that's more disciplined so that I take action without motivation, am I going back in 6 months from now, I'm seeing my do-over is like, I didn't start working on that because I wasn't motivated, but you saw last week, you took action even though you weren't motivated. One of your goals was to do this. You knew you didn't feel like you had the motivation inside, but you still went and did it. That shows signs of progress. The other is, the more you do the exercise, the better your self-awareness is going to be. So the more aware you're going to be of where your challenges are and who you want to become. One of the things I talked about, actually today's podcast of mine, is when we make choices and when we think through things, the more we have to think about, the longer it takes us to make a choice, even if it's a simple choice. In sports, if you're thinking about the playbook, you're going to have a hard time making a play because you're not going to be able to respond instinctively quickly to go make that play, because you're going to be like, am I supposed to go right? Am I supposed to go left? Wait a second, I don't know what to do here or there. And so from a personal standpoint, it happens the same way. So we have to identify, who do I want to become? What are the skills that I want to have 5 years from now, 10 years from now, my perfect self? Am I disciplined? Am I more empathetic? Am I a better leader? Like, what are those skills? Who do I want to be? What skills do I want to have? And where am I ultimately trying to go in my career and my life? And getting a clear picture of that versus just clock in, clock out every day, show up, do your best. That's great. But knowing where you want to go, who you want to become, helps you make decisions faster, because as you're going through this process of looking at what my attack is for the day, who I'm trying to become, does this align with who I want to be and where I want to go? And it's a simple yes or no. If it does, do it. If it doesn't, cut it out. And a lot of times when we don't know who we want to be or where we want to go, we look at every decision and we're like, should I do this or should I do that? And then we spend 30 minutes, an hour of playing this. Well, what if I do this? And what if I do that? And versus like, this is what I said I want to do. This is where I said I want to be. This is the decision I'm going to make. If it doesn't work, I adjust and keep going toward that, versus I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And then, and then we sit and waste time. I hope that answered your question. If not, would you rephrase it for me and re-ask?
Cool. But I'm sorry, you're just hitting me like right where I feel, right in my feel. So we have, like, we're very similar. I have different language that I use personally, but I'm like, you're right there with me. I'm right there with you, because I just, like, last week, I had just had this whole breakthrough in my thought. So I was thinking of, my approach to things in the past had been say yes and. Right? You just
very
say
improv.
Yes. Right, very improv, right? And so, but what for me, for my fundamental thing that I'm missing in my own life, what has led me to is be in this constant state of feeling left behind. Because if everything's a yes, then I have to kind of approach everything as a yes, even if it's not right for me. But if I know who I am, where I want to go, what I need, what are the strategy, what are the skills that I need to get there, then the conversation can change from yes and to, if it's a no, it's a no, if it's a yes, and I can just go forward because I know where I want to go. And just that change in thought has helped me feel so much better with approaching anything, everything, and that's when I was reflecting back on the journal. That's what I saw, because it was like, I'm just trapped in waiting. That was what I kept seeing, all that, I'm ready for something big to happen to me, and I put in all this energy, but I'm just trapped in my waiting. But then as I kept flipping through, it was like 3 weeks later, I got an opportunity, another, and it was just like, oh, because I knew where I wanted to go.
And you're taking action for it.
Yeah, exactly. And so then I could align my action to the person that I knew I'd want to be. But my question is, what if you're not there yet? What if you don't know who you want to be, or what if you don't know where you want to go? How do you bring yourself to that? Is that really just our choices, or, what is that? How do we get to that place of, I have to become self-aware?
So there's two pieces to that I think that are key. The first is spending and creating the time to write down who you might want to become. That's not who you have to be. Writing it down isn't committing it to your life. It's kind of like a brainstorm. As we were kids in school, you'd have creative writing class. Like, you're just brainstorming. Maybe I want to be more disciplined. Or, I look at somebody that I work with, and say Eddie, for instance, you're like, oh, I like the way Eddie does this or that. I wish I had more of that. Maybe that's it. So I'm writing it down. So you create the space to just kind of identify what you might want to become. And then you start little by little working toward it. You take that yes and approach that's so famous in improv of, if you're not familiar with the yes and, is in improv theater, the whole goal is yes and. So if somebody starts a show of like, hey, you walked in riding a purple horse with a green cowboy hat on, go. Everybody, the other actors in the scene can't be like, no, that's not right. Everybody acts as yes and here's how I'm going to add to it. That's the whole way the show works. Improv, whose line is it anyways? It's always looking at what you say, what you do, saying, yes, that's accurate, that's truth, let me add on to it. So you take that approach to life and you say, okay, these are the things I might want to become. Yes, and how can I develop them? And so you start to go down the path of building those things and saying, yes, I want more of this, or no, I don't feel like this is a fit where I ultimately want to go, what I want to become. But it all starts with creating the space. We're so busy as a society that we don't ever create the space to be like, where do I actually want to go? What do I actually want to do with my career? We take a job, we come in, we leave the job. We don't ever think about, do I want to do this 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Does this build me? Am I able to make an impact I want? We just kind of go with the flow until one day we look up and we feel like it's too late to make a change. So creating the space to say, here's who I want to be. Here's what I might want to become. Start working toward it, yes, and then you get to that point where you're like, no, this is the type of person I want to be. This is where I want to go. You stop saying yes and to everything and just say, these are the things that get me down that path. And so it starts with that. And that helps you build the self-awareness. You're not going to feel like it. You're not going to feel motivated. You're probably going to have days where you're like, am I on the right path? But starting little, starting small, and that's going back to the first conversation about resolutions. Like, if LA's job is to build bigger pecs, he's not going to go in the mirror every day and be like, my pecs getting bigger. Like, his goal every day is make sure I'm in the gym in the EPM Fit class, make sure I'm watching what I'm eating. That's it. That's the check those boxes every day. I'm going to get the bigger pecs. I'm going to have my goals take care of themselves because I'm focused on the process. Same applies with us. We've got to just little by little by little, on the days we don't feel like it, on the days we don't want to, just say, is this aligning with where I want to go, who I want to become? And if we don't know who, say, is this perhaps the type of person I want to become? And if it is, we do the action, we get through, we're like, I don't think that's me, cross it off, find someone else. It helps you speed up that decision-making process.
Because you can change your mind.
You can always, and we get so, like, it's the sunk cost. We sit through a crappy movie because they're like, well, I bought a ticket and I've already sat here for 30 minutes versus being like, no, this movie sucks, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Like getting up, walking out. It's why we finish crappy books. It's because we're like, well, I already read 2 chapters of it. I need to finish reading. You're like, no, take that out, put it into something you'll enjoy. We just get, oh, I've already spent this time, I've already gone this path, versus like, you can change your mind. Every choice is independent of each other.
Which is how you win the next one.
Exactly.
Right? Which brings us back. It's like, do you get off track? You just decide to get back on. Now I'm going to eat this for lunch because I ate my grits, right?
And even just writing it down is like planting a seed in your mind. Even if you are like, oh, this is not, like, even writing it down, this is kind of stupid, but you're planting that seed of where you want to go.
And you're watering it with a daily practice. But we do have a question. It comes from Christy. If she wants to, this is for you, Christy. Does writing it down also allow the energy and our words to begin to match?
So Christy, follow up on this. Are you asking from a writing it down, manifesting it type mentality?
We'll just assume.
We'll just assume.
We'll assume. So
we're getting word.
Here, I'm going to give you 2 answers because I'm not the individual that's going to tell you if you write it down, it's going to happen. I don't believe in writing it down and manifesting it to reality. I believe our actions create the realities, not our thoughts. What I do think writing it down helps you do is, one, it helps you build your self-awareness. Two, it's the idea, let me ask you this. Have you, of coming into full authenticity? Yes, the more self-aware you are, the more you'll know who you are, and you don't have to put up a false front. You don't have to impress people, which helps you build your confidence. When you can walk into a room and say, I know who I am, I know what I'm striving to become and where I'm striving to go, and I know what skills I'm trying to build, you don't have to put up this fake front. You don't have to try and impress people, because you may not be exactly where you want to be, but you already know in your head, this is where I'm striving for. It's the imposter syndrome of like, I feel out of place, those kind of thoughts. But what writing it down additionally tries to do is it helps you think of it like this. The car that you wanted, the last car you bought, before you bought it, you probably didn't see too many on the road.
Right.
Maybe it's a yellow VW. You wanted this yellow VW. You saw them everywhere as a kid. You don't see them anymore. You're like, man, I go to work every day. I don't see a yellow VW anywhere. You go into the car dealership. You're like, that's the one. I buy that yellow VW. As soon as you leave that parking lot, they're everywhere. You see them all over the place. And the reason being, it's not that they weren't there. It's that your brain is aware of them now. And so your brain is looking, because your brain's like, that's my car. That's my car. That's my car. So it's not that they weren't there. You're just more aware of them being there. And so your brain's looking for them. So when you start to identify who you want to become, what skills you want to develop, where you want to be, and you're writing it down on a consistent basis, your brain starts looking for opportunities on where I can develop down that path, just like it is when you suddenly start seeing those cars everywhere. You're like, I want to be better in sales. I want to have more influence in my leadership. I'm writing down every day. I'm reading more. I'm doing it. You're going to start noticing more opportunity. Well, I can practice my sales skills here. And man, this would be a really cool way to build influence and help someone else. You start seeing those opportunities because your brain is aligned with it and sees it from you writing it down. The energy aspect of it is probably like we talked about with motivation and gratitude. You're not going to feel it every day. So some days you're going to write things down and it's literally just going to feel like words on a paper. There's no energy. There's no oomph behind them. There's nothing but writing it down. But the practice is building that muscle, just like you would build it in the gym, lifting one rep at a time. I shared with these folks beforehand, Dr. Nicole Gabbana of University of Massachusetts runs their sports psych program. Had a chance to interview her about gratitude and how being grateful affects how well we perform. And she said, most of us make the mistake that gratitude is a feeling, similar to motivation, and we need the feeling in order to act. But in reality, it's the action that creates the feeling. And so the more we write it down, even on the days we don't feel it, the more it's going to help to put it into really who we are, and the feeling and honestly, the confidence that we don't need the feeling in order to be grateful, in order to take action, in order to move forward. We just do it.
And you just stand firm, and like once you start to develop who you are, you can walk into a room, stand firm on who you are, and know what your values are, and it all falls into place. So, and
you don't take, and that's the thing, like you don't take, like if I mess up at work, I don't take it as personally, because I'm like, I'm here's what I'm looking to do, here's where I'm trying to go. I fell short here. Where can I get better? Where can I take the next action to improve who I am, where I'm trying to go, versus, man, I made this mistake, I'm going to keep replaying it, versus how do I win the next one?
I know you don't like it, but it's again back to the mindset thing, right? And this is what I tell people, I'm like, you just kind of again change that thought, so it change, that thought. So you, instead of focusing on what you did wrong, my faults, you're looking at what I do right and my strengths. So then you're always plugging in your skills. So I want to be this person. I need these skills to get there. I have these skills to get there, and that's what you're kind of focusing on. So if you have a bad day, you can just be like you were saying, just like, okay, well, I know what, write it down. Here's what I can do next time. I wish I would have done this, and I can do this next time. And it just kind of keeps that in your mind to keep you going. And I'm so inspired right now.
Mean, I grew up in East Texas, Friday Night Lights, football, like small town Texas. I carried like mindset and mental performance was not like anything I wanted any part of, any thought of. Right. I was like, I'm here to play football. I'm going to be good at football. I'm going to work hard. Like I saw that area. And then as I got older and I started learning more about growth mindset and fixed mindset and just how we can build and develop our mental performance and how that obviously impacts how we show up at work, how we show up in our relationships, it was a game changer. And I'm like, man, I wish I had that at 12. I wish I'd known then, because I wouldn't have been trying to seek as much approval and attention and validation from everyone else. You walk in knowing this is who I am. And if I'm short in some area, this is who I'm striving to be, and that's what I'm working toward.
I call it being anchored in yourself.
Yes.
You know, versus being anchored in other things, right? And that's a question that's going to lead to the next question. Why do you think so many people try to find happiness from external sources rather than understanding from within and expressed outwardly?
Because you are bombarded by thousands of messages every single day that say you do not have what it takes. Take my diet pill, sign up for my course, buy my product, go eat here, look like this, do that. That is essentially it. Because sales, for a lot of people, sales is driving fear that you are inadequate, and you will be adequate or better if you buy my product. That is plain and simple what it is. You're seeing a lot more companies go away from that. Because they're understanding it's messaging, it's community, it's a whole lot more. Like for us, the message is not everybody wants to win, everybody wants a trophy, not everybody wants to compete.
Right.
Because competing means you might lose. So if you're someone that's willing to say, you know what, I may lose, but I'm going after it because it's meaningful to me, then you're with us. Then you'll want to buy the products, you'll want to be part of the community, you want to build in that area, because we're not saying you're not enough. We're saying if you're willing to go after it, even if you fail, we're your people. And so you're bombarded by it all the time. And I think a lot of people, I mean, there's a number of reasons, from how they were raised to the messages they were told growing up to how they interpret people have communicated to them. If you've never read the book Mindset by Carol Dweck, it's a game changer because Carol Dweck is a researcher. She looked at why certain kids grow and develop and why others don't. And she looked at how they're communicated with. And she came up with the concepts of fixed versus growth mindset. Fixed mindset says, I was born this way, I'll always be this way. I'm not smart, I'll never get smart. My skills don't develop. Criticism and feedback is bad, avoid it at all costs. Other people validate me, and so I have to look perfect to them, otherwise I'll be worthless. Growth mindset, on the other hand, says feedback and criticism actually helps me get better because it helps build my self-awareness on where I fall short. I can grow and build skills. Just because I was born this way doesn't mean I'll always have to be this way. And so she looks at that, and the way the brain physically works is it grows and develops. We learn as a kid, we can still learn and develop as we get older. And so the book is a real eye-opener in terms of how we behave in our business, in our careers, in our relationships, in sports, all of that. And so highly recommend that one as well. But it talks about, like, people are stuck in the fixed mindset because they've been told, well, you're not smart. And a lot of that goes back to how we communicate with each other versus parents. If your parents out there and your kids play youth sports, praise the kid on how hard they play, how great of a teammate they are, what they do with their teammates versus how many hits they got and points they scored. Because as they get older, they will associate points and touchdowns with your love. And that's important. That's all that matters. How many points did you score? Even if you were a bad teammate, anything else. When you praise, I love how hard you work. I saw how you dove on the floor for a loose ball. I saw how you encouraged your teammate after they struck out. When you praise those things, the kid starts to associate hard work, being a great teammate, communicating with, these are valuable skills. This is how I develop. And it's not just with kids. It's how we talk to the people we work with. It's how our managers talk to our staffs. Because for a lot of us in sales, you can be doing the right thing every single day and the dam hasn't broke. The sales haven't come in, but you're doing everything the right way you're supposed to. You pound the rock. You just keep showing up and doing it. But when we tell them, well, you suck, you're not getting any sales, versus looking at it and saying, you're doing everything I taught you to do. Keep showing up and doing it. You're telling them, I'm going to praise your effort. We're eventually going to get through this. And so that's a big one in all the terms, but I think that's why a lot of us have that stuck mindset of, we've been told things and we have to reprogram how our brains have been wired, which is possible based on what science says about how our brains grow and develop.
So if we're not getting that, say, like, from our leader, I mean, we are, obviously, we are getting that often. But it's just that, in our personal life, we're not getting that. How do you kind of like pump yourself up,
Yeah, so positive self-talk is big because for a lot of us, like you said earlier, our own worst critic is in our head. We'll talk worse to ourselves than we would ever say to our best friend or anybody we know. And
we don't cut ourselves any slack.
I know, we don't.
Right? We're so hard on ourselves, always.
And so it's practicing self-talk, how we talk to ourselves, being aware of it, which was one of the takeaways from the EPM X21. One of the guys in the audience was like, I never really thought about how I talked to myself before. And I was like, we all are talking to ourselves every day. So the more aware we are of it, the more we can kind of control that behavior. writing it down gives us extra ammo when that inner critic voice starts talking to us, to be able to be like, no, I'm actually doing the work to get better. You can show it, you can validate it. Yeah. And so that's a big one. The second thing is be very intentional and cautious with who you associate with. And I know Blaine asked about my book. So, thank you, one of the Blaines on there. So in my book, I actually dive into it, but as well is we've got to be intentional with who we hang out with in life. The type of people to avoid and the type of people to hang out with. And for a lot of us, we're not intentional with our social relationships as well as we should be. And so we allow just anyone to be in our circle. And when we allow just anyone to be in our circle, there's no telling what we're going to consume from their conversations, from just being around them, versus essentially being able to cut away the bad relationships. And not like, hey, this isn't healthy, I can't hang out with you anymore. But essentially, instead of, hey, we're hanging out every weekend, I might see you every couple weeks, and then every 3 weeks, and once every 6 weeks. And then you just kind of peel away from the relationship because you're like, this person doesn't encourage me, challenge me, or hold me accountable to the standard. And if I'm going to go somewhere, if I'm going to build how I talk to myself, if I'm going to need more encouragement, I need to surround myself with the type of people who are trying to do the same thing in their life.
And which brings you back to being self-aware, which is why this practice of writing things down.
So key.
The next one. That's so, perfect. So you can get his book on your website, right?
Right. CompeteEveryday.com is the easiest way. Or if you're an Audible audiobook person, it's on Audible and audiobooks.
Just plug your book again, and your podcast. You plug your podcast too.
Yeah.
So.
We have another question that we kind of ran over past it. It says, what's the midnight rule and how does it impact our decision making?
So midnight rule is similar to win the next one. So I had a chance to interview a pro baseball player years ago. And baseball, fascinating for me. If you're a Braves fan or wherever you are in the country watching this, the best batters in the game in baseball, they're going to fail 70% of the time. 7 out of 10 times you go up to the plate, you will not reach first base. If you're good, if you're average, it's like 8 out of 10. If you're not even making it to the big leagues, you're going over. So I interviewed this guy and was like, how do you stay positive, knowing that you're likely going to fail? Every day you go out there, there will be failure. For him, he told me about his midnight rule. He said, whether I have a great game or a terrible game, I give myself until 11:59 that night to celebrate it or more. And at that point at midnight, I let it go. He said, because at that point, it's in the past, it's behind me. And if I'm focused on what happened then, I can't be at my best in the present, which is where my teammates need me most for the next game. It's like when you go up to at bat, if you're thinking about the last at bat that you struck out or you hit a home run, you're not going to be able to perform at your best when that pitch is thrown your way because your brain is not in the present. So for us, it's the same thing, especially when it comes in regards to a bad day or letting those bad streaks go. Some people will go out in their car, they'll crank up Metallica, they'll scream at their steering wheel for like 5 minutes. I've heard some crazy things with the midnight rule. And then others are like, I give myself until I go to bed. But when I wake up the next morning, I write something down and say, today is a new day because this is my focus for today. And so letting it go at midnight, whether it's actual midnight or you set an alarm in your phone, gets us into that point to say, get it out, celebrate, scream, cuss, cry, whatever it is, but set that alarm in your phone that when it goes off, you're done. Give yourself that space to get it out and then say, let's go.
So this is kind of what you're saying. Be real with yourself. Be honest. Say where you are, and then say what you need, and then let it go.
Yeah. That's so important because I'm an overthinker. I know there's a bunch of people that are overthinkers. You can let that go like for days, and if you don't let it go, if you don't celebrate it or mourn it, then it's just it'll drag on.
And think about the stress, stress you put yourself on, and what stress physically from a health standpoint does to our bodies is disastrous. And so the more you carry, the harder then we get into the sunk cost because you keep overanalyzing, overthinking it for days. And so you're just going to let it continue versus just like literally setting the alarm in your phone, think about it, scream, alarm goes off, let's go.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So another question, I like to let things move me and move through me in the moment and let it go to be open to opportunities and let it go to be okay.
So here's what I'll have you chew on, Christy, on that. Being open to opportunities, but understanding who you are and where you want to go so you don't say yes to all of them. So that yes and gets us into it, because the biggest key early in our careers and our lives on this path is to say yes to a lot of things. But once we identify who we are, where we want to go, it's saying no to almost everything. That's the biggest struggle for a lot of people, is learning to say no. Because unless you say no, you're taking away from your opportunities to go after where you actually want to go and what you actually want to do.
Well, and you're letting people down. Like
for me, I get the people pleaser.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about the imposter syndrome, but I get the people pleaser syndrome, right? Where it's like, oh my God, I got to make sure that if I have to say yes to this person, a yes to this person, a yes, but sometimes you have to say no on principle, which me and LA had to talk about yesterday. Where sometimes it's principle. Like that's not my focus. That's not where I'm headed. So I'm sorry. It's not personal. It's just a no, right?
Yeah.
And you have to be. Because then you got to know who you are and bring it back to the present and know that this is not right for me. And it goes back to this writing it down. I'm sorry, where you're just like, okay, I can win the next one by doing this. And what I love about win the next one is not win the next 3.
Yep.
It's not win the next day, or win the next year. It's just literally win the next one. Whatever your hill is, and just win it. Just go and figure out the plan of how to get up. Walk. Okay, we did it,
Life is a series of individual experiences and choices. And if we look at them that way, you can put them all together when you look back. But going forward, you have a kind of an idea where the finish line is. And I might have talked about it at EPMX, is when I ran my first half marathon, I didn't train for it. And so I got out on the course and I'm running hard and I'm feeling good. And then my feet start hurting. I get that stitch in my side and I realize, oh God, I'm in trouble. And I look up at the mile marker and it said 2. And in my head, I'm thinking I'm at 7 or 8. And I just go into panic mode. Like, how do you quit this race? How do you get out of it?
I'm going to be at the course.
I know. And so for me, it was, how do I just play tag with the next person in front of me? How do I just catch that guy in the yellow hat? How do I catch that girl in the pink shorts? And then you go person to person to person the entire rest of the race. And that's how I got through it. It's not by thinking, man, I have 7, 8, 9 miles left. It's how do I just catch that one and then that one? And it's the same.
I love that. It's breaking it down.
Yes.
It's breaking it. So like even if you do goal setting this way, like you have your goal, and a year from now I want to do this. For me personally, and a year from now I want to have a house that I own that is mine, right?
Yep.
And so then in a year, so then you roll it back, right? And you roll it down. So what can I do today that's going to get me there next year? How do I do that? Okay, well, don't go eat Chick-fil-A again. Right? Because me and Adair want to go eat Chick-fil-A after we get done. And it's like, okay, well, if I'm trying to save up for a house, let's not go to Chick-fil-A. Yeah. But we have another question. This is from Cash. As a manager, what is the best way to get people to work more hours, such as loan officers, because they are struggling and need to work more, without feeling like you are telling them and forcing them to do something that they do not want to do?
Ooh, good question. So culture is a big conversation piece. And so culture is at the core of relationships, and managing at its absolute core is relationships, and how we not only communicate with the people we work with, but they understand they're not just a number, and that what we're helping them do is get them to where they want to go. And so it may honestly be a step back to say, where do you specifically want to go? Getting to know them, where they want to go. What are they trying to do with their career? Is it financially driven? Do they just want to be praised in front of people? Do they want the attention? Do they want the financial compensation? What that is. And then what you do as the manager is you start helping them see that to get to where you want to go, here's the steps we take to get there. There's a book coming out next month. I actually just interviewed the author called I Love It Here. It's by a guy named Clint Pulver. He's another speaker. He's a friend of mine. And he talks about, they did like an undercover boss type setup with all of these companies. And Clint is famous for being the undercover millennial because he looks like he's 25. And he talked about the reason people stay, the reason people work hard, or the reason that people just go to bat for them is the managers are essentially their mentors. And they understand they're not going to like them every day, but they respect them, and they know the mentor is helping you get to where you want to go, which is why we have mentors in general. And so the better we can communicate and first understand where they want to go, what drives them, how we can develop that relationship, and then 2, turn around and show them if you're working harder, if you can do these additional things, here's where it's helping you get to where you want to go. That's why people strive more. It's hard to get people to work harder and to go longer when you're just like, well, you need to do it because it's part of the job or this or that. They've got to have that bigger purpose to see how their work on a daily basis aligns with where they want to go in life. Or if it's not even career-wise, maybe it's financial, of like, you want to do a beach vacation? Like, here's how we hit your financial numbers so you have the income to go do that beach vacation. You start helping them connect the dots, because a lot of times we don't ever connect the dots ourselves.
Yeah.
And also it goes back to like we were saying for parents of kids who play youth sports. It's reminding them, oh, I saw the way you slid that loan in. I saw the way that you closed that deal. I saw the way, you encourage them and the little things they do, not necessarily focusing on that end goal either, but in the middle of the moment to be like, hey, you're doing such a great job. And then people feel more empowered to do their job and to even take on more because then they're like, I can handle it.
And then
because I know I can do it.
Yes, and they're encouraged. Like my wife's in real estate back in Texas. She's on the title side. And I know like mortgage, it's all tough and it's high stress because it's homes and people are freaked out. But when a loan officer will call her and be like, hey, I really appreciate how you helped us on that deal after 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. I appreciate that. She's like over the moon.
Right.
And when an agent's like, hey, we saw you, the way you went to bat for us here. I just want you to know how much that means to me and thank you. Because a lot of times those little, even just nice, polite, thank you for helping go so unnoticed.
Well, it makes her want to work
and
harder.
It makes her want to work harder because she was praised for how she busted.
And she's like, wow, I did a good job and I can do it again. And I know now. But when I first started working here, the first week, I was talking with Eddie again. And if you ever have a chance to talk to Eddie, he has so many nuggets of wisdom that he sprinkles into a conversation and it plays in your mind when you're later down the road. He plants those seeds, as you said earlier. But he told me, I was like, why do you consider yourself an effective leader? Because I was trying to get to know him and, why are, these things. And he said, what's important to me is that I find the people that put them in the job and then I let them do their thing. I don't, I find the right people and then let them do their thing. He said, but the other part of it is that you find what they want to do and you help them unleash it. And I love that, where he's like, I want to get, that means because he's investing in us, and as a leader, you're investing in people by helping them unleash it, and they feel invested in, which again goes back to like your wife and makes them want to do it. And I think that's how you help them win the next one, is you just pump them up with encouragement.
It's the little compliments that really make you want to work that much harder. Like I think when I get a small little compliment about something I do, I'm like, all right, I'm going to do it better next time. I'm going to make those people proud again.
And it's not just an outcome. It's not just, hey, you got a sale, or hey, you brought in this, because we're already excited about that. It's the unnoticed work of like, I saw how you busted your butt, or I saw how you two stepped in and handled this because Eddie and Eric were gone. I love that. Thank y'all. And so you hear those and you see those matter more to our team than the outcome, because they expect to be praised for the outcome. They don't expect to be praised for the process.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I feel so good. But this sounds like, okay, so what we kind of gone over is how you win the next one. I just kind of recap a little bit because we kind of, take some time to be self-aware.
Write it down.
Write it down. Get real, and then speak encouragingly to yourself and to those around you. Like this is kind of anything else that we can add to this list.
Yeah. Look at every choice independent of the next. I think that's one of the big, every day is independent of the next, every choice. We tend to let them string together. Just look at your next choice as the one you have to win. Don't worry about what you made last one. Don't worry about one you have to make 10 from now. How can you win the next choice? And then spend time writing things down, building that self-awareness, because it will be the superpower over the course of your career, because a lot of people we all know are not self-aware. And so if you're not self-aware, you don't know where you can improve and get better.
Does anybody have any more questions? It sounds like this is a great place to kind of wrap up. We're coming up on the hour mark. So here's another. Is it good to give yourself 5 minutes minimum to self-reflect? Even a minute.
I was about to say, even the deep breath of a minute is helpful, because here's the thing. 1 beats 0. 1 step every day beats 0. James Clear in the book Atomic Habits talks about this. When you're building a new habit, set an alarm in your phone for 2 minutes. And when it goes off, you can quit it after 2 minutes, or you can keep it going. But the goal is just 2 minutes. So if you're somebody that's never worked out, walked, run, set an alarm for 2 minutes. You're going to go on a walk outside. And when the alarm goes off, you can go right back inside if you want, or you can keep going. But it's just to get in the habit of going, because 1 always beats none.
So Cash said, great job, and thank you for your information. One more question though, what are your top 3 favorite books? I was gonna ask the same question because, so read every day.
So mine, I would say is the biggest. Top 3 books I would say that I try to recommend everyone. Atomic Habits, which we just mentioned by James Clear. Mindset by Carol Dweck is an amazing one as well that'll help build the self-awareness. And then I really love The One Thing by Jay Papazan and Gary Keller. Gary Keller of Keller Williams Realty wrote this book years ago. It's probably two of those, Atomic Habits and The One Thing, two of the best books for productivity, focus, I think, written. They're phenomenal. Their tools are phenomenal. And then Carol Dweck's mindset will help really build that self-awareness, which will help you lead better, manage better, more effectively, because you'll be more aware of where my shortcomings are and where my opportunities for growth are.
If you're asking me, no, just kidding. I have my whole 5 list of books that I read that, because I hit just to be a little personal on this, I hit a downward little moment where I was deep in the trenches of depression for a while. And this is how I kind of started journaling, is because I was like, I want to know who I am. I want to know what I need from life. And that's why I'm feeling so inspired, because I'm like, this is actually what it really takes. Like, this is actually what it really takes. So I have my list of 5 books that I give out to people. But the first one I say is Brave in the Wilderness by Brene Brown, because that vulnerability, to be vulnerable with yourself when you're being honest with yourself.
Get in the arena.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Any other questions? Somebody said that's not me.
Said, love this discussion.
So, thank you all.
Tooting his own horn.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. The ego of Blaine.
I love how Blaine got all of these people to log in on his account and engage us today.
It just makes it look like I'm really present. You know, I'm all over the place. All right, so I mean, you want to? We're gonna turn.
Come on, LA, join us. Come on, Seth. Come on.
I just really wanted to touch on the thing you said about the encouraging the sports analogy, not saying focusing on points and whatnot.
Yeah.
As of this week, I'm starting to teach my sons and my daughters Little League baseball team.
Okay.
And that really hit home, because I'm really trying to focus on getting them out there and enjoying the game, being good teammates, encouraging dugout participation to cheer on the batter. And everything, not just focus on the points. I even actually got into it with one of the other parents or coaches, because
parents are crazy.
They want to focus on those points, and I'm like, look, we just got to build this.
Little League, nobody's going to the majors.
No.
and go to Raising Competitors podcast. It's on iTunes. It's one of ours. It's a lot of these kind of conversations with parents and sports psychologists for how you teach parents, because I would get asked at events, like, how do I teach my kid this? And so we have 25 episodes around it. So encourage that. Second, block out the crazy parents, because they're everywhere.
They are.
And third, the most important things in sports are the lessons they take away and the car ride home. And getting in the car ride home and just not bringing up how many points you scored, letting the kid talk, hey, what'd you think about today's game? Letting them talk about it.
Bringing up the negatives.
That's right.
You missed the ball or anything. I love the way you hustled for that ball. You know? And
just be like, where do you want to get better next week?
Exactly.
And then you give them that target, which we talked about. How do you want to be better? What do you want to do better? Where do you want to be? Cool. You put it on them to say, oh, you know what? I wish I hadn't missed that ground ball. I'm going to get that next time. Awesome. Let's work on it this week. And then you help set them up for success.
I literally have a practice tonight at 6. I'm going into it.
All right. I love it.
See, we're empowered.
That's right.
We're empowered on the Empower Hour. So one last question is from Julie Murphy. She wants to know, again, what was that book, Fixed Growth Mindset?
Julie, the book is called Mindset. It's by Carol Dweck, D-W-E-C-K.
I was so close to spelling it.
You almost got it. Top 5 book for me, D-W-E-C-K. Carol Dweck. The book is called Mindset. It should be one of the easiest ones to find in terms of popping up as well. When you type in Mindset book, it's probably going to be at the top.
Awesome. Cash just
love it.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. I know we should write down, you've given Mindset by Carol Dweck. You've given Raising Competitors by the podcast, your own podcast, which is called
Compete Every Day.
Compete Every Day. Your book, which is called Compete Every Day.
Make it easy.
You've also given, I Love It Here, which is coming out next by Clint Pulver. Every Choice is it. Oh, but that's another note.
Atomic Habits
and The One Thing.
Yep.
And that's also, and then Control Your Breath as a means to bring yourself back into the moment, and write it down.
Write it down.
Win the next one.
That's right.
Media,
awesome.
Social media.
Easiest place to get connected. My website's competeeveryday.com. You'll find the podcast. You'll find the book. You'll find cool shirts, kind of like they're wearing. And then Compete Every Day on any social media. I still run our account. So if you say hi on Instagram, whatever, I'll be there to say hi. And so shoot me a request on Instagram or LinkedIn. Would love to connect with you. Thanks, Cash.
Every day. Well, thank you so much, Jake. We really appreciate it. This is awesome little nuggets that we can take with us throughout our week and year and month.
So one more thing that we wanted to say from Adair and I, sorry, this is an internal promotion thing really quick. If you're watching from EPM today, don't forget on Tuesday, we will have our internal awards Zoom call called Good Day EPM. So we want to make sure that you watch that on Tuesday so you can see who wins for the last month. Anyway, thank you again so
Thanks
much
for having me,
being
y'all.
here. Yeah, we're so glad to have you. We'll see you next week.
Thank you so much, Jake. Thank you.
I feel like next time I need like streamers. When y'all sing, you should give the guests like something to smile now. Because y'all were singing it perfect now. I was like, I could have just